Hello and welcome to Artists Soar. This is a podcast for artists by 3 artists. We discuss all aspects of being artists, the good, the bad, and the ugly. The goal of each podcast is to provide solutions so artists can focus on their creativity and soar above. I'm Rachel Harshenko.
Jules McCullough.
Stephanie Weaver.
Kate Morton from The Forgotten Garden once said, "You make a life out of what you have, not what you're missing." In this episode of Art BS Business Solutions for Artists, we're going to be talking about what you do to stay positive. So what do you guys do to stay positive? Because there's a lot of stuff that could be negative for us. And especially as artists who we're emotional and we take on.
We're empathetic. We're emotional. We're all
creatives
those feels.
Feel more. Yeah. Our feelings are right out there on our sleeve. So how do you guys stay positive?
We're just like looking at each other going,
who's going to go first?
Like we aren't positive. Like we drink a lot of coffee and tea and maybe wine. But
I think it's both. Like, how do you react to the negative? Because I think you got to accept it. Sometimes you have to accept the negative before you can see the positive that can come from it. You know what I mean? You're blinking at me. She's blinking at me.
Well, I mean, I am thinking that because we had talked, John and I have talked about that before, because a lot of people are saying, it is what it is.
Yeah, which is true. But like, how can you take that a step further and say, okay, it is what it is. How can I make do with this? Make that lemonade out of the lemons.
Right.
But a lot of people say it is what it is and just accept it and like, don't do anything with it. They're like, okay, well, this sucks.
I think acknowledging it is key.
Okay. You've
got to acknowledge, not overreact to it, not underreact to it. Don't ignore it. It is what it is, but you've got to acknowledge it. And once you acknowledge it, you can live with it. And then you can move on from it in most cases. I was just thinking about this. I just did a rambling voice memo the other day about grief because, and it's kind of the same thing. You've got to accept it. It's like the, what's it called? The gallery that's right outside the studio there where they do the different shows has a grief.
The cycles of grief.
The cycles of grief. And I have not been able to look at it. And it hit me again, all over again. And I think the same thing is true with negativity. You don't know when it's going to creep up on you. Mm. But one of the things I said when I was rambling about that was you have to acknowledge that grief. You have to acknowledge that negativity. And once you acknowledge it, then I think you can move on and look towards the positive and be more positive.
Yeah.
But, just ignoring it just creates it to fester and make it more negative. Wouldn't you say?
I don't know. I think people are, in one of our episodes, we had listener questions and this one girl puts her art in the basement. Like she has negativity over her because her boyfriend didn't like her art. So that's something that, unless she makes a change, it's going to stay the same. And she might just say, "Oh, it is what it is." Well, her art will never get out then.
But is she doing that, or is she hiding the artwork to not face the issue?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, ignoring it.
Ignoring it, yeah. And that is one thing that this whole grieving process has shown me is that, and that's why I'm relating to it with negativity in the same sense, is if I ignore it, it just builds up and builds up and builds up, and I am going to explode in a big, huge pile of mess. Where if I acknowledge that negativity and if I need to, have my own pity party over the negativity for a day or two, so be it. Mm-hmm. That is what it is in my mind.
It's your way of accepting it.
Exactly. And then you pick your,
Well, and I don't think we're telling our listeners, just be Pollyanna.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and I think that's what people think, though. Sometimes.
When people are way too positive, we all know we have people in our lives that are way too positive and way too energetic.
Yes.
Especially before my first cup of coffee or whatever, And then there are people in our lives that are way too negative.
Yes.
And they're the Eeyores in our group.
Right.
And I feel like as artists, we find ourselves sometimes going between those two.
Yes, I do know some that do jump between that. And I was one that jumped between that.
And I don't think I'm not talking like bipolar. I'm just talking about stuff, just everyday life things.
Yeah.
Because you're like, oh, you have a big win. Yay. Everything's great. People are going to love my art now. And then you don't have a sale for or you don't have anything for ever. And you're like, woe's me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So.
Mm-hmm. But then you also have the people that woes me about that. And then they're like, oh, well, I can't keep up with the housework. Oh, my child is this. My child is that. Oh, I've got this. I've got that. They can't
find positive in anything.
They don't see anything positive at all versus just acknowledging that one thing and accepting it in order to move on and see the good. I don't know.
So that's one thing I think that you're right on, that we have to acknowledge where we are emotionally.
Yeah.
And you might be painting and painting and painting and painting and nothing is selling. So there are people out there right now doing that. Mm-hmm. So what are some, besides acknowledging, oh yeah, I'm being negative and the world sucks. Where do we start with finding the positive?
Well, I think Stephanie and I had this conversation not too long ago about, number one thing is I've got to remove myself from those negative
people.
And anything that gives off any negative energy is like we were joking, looking for an old email about something.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, I delete the negative energy. Like I don't, because I'm empathetic. I take on other people's stuff.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Even if it's sitting in my inbox in a folder, I am still going to be taking it on if it sits there. And it was that bad of a situation that I didn't want to be around. And so you've got to remove yourself from those negative people, thoughts, and things that are just bringing you down. But I also think that's hard for people to realize that they're taking that on themselves, especially artists, because I think a lot of artists are empathetic.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. And so I don't think they all realize that they're taking on all that emotion.
Well, I mean, there is the starving artist, the struggling artist and struggling, like you have that picture in your brain of they're struggling. Mm-hmm. I mean, like in life in general. And I don't think we need to do that as creative and artistic people.
Well, I think there needs to be a flip the switch. Okay, so if you're struggling right now, right? You're struggling as an artist, you're struggling to make sales. You feel like maybe there's other people that are doing it better. They're succeeding more. They're doing all this. The reason you're going through it, and this is how I kind of look at everything. The reason why you're going through that right now is to lead you to someplace else. So instead of focusing on all the negative,
okay, that's really good.
Yeah, that's very good.
That should have been a pause moment. Can you say that one more time?
I don't know. You're going to have to replay.
Leading you to a different place.
Every step that you take is leading you to a new place. And you're meant to walk through these steps so that you can achieve that next step. It's going to be, growth is painful. And it's like when you were 7, 12 or whatever, those growing pains, they hurt. And you're just hurting a little bit right now, but you're growing towards something better.
But see, that's history too. Like that's part of your journey is that history. And because you had that moment, you're going to know how to do something differently or better.
Right. And one of the podcasts that we talked about the lessons that we learned in not doing our dealings with our family.
Yeah.
Each one of those was painful.
Right.
And we did it 3 to 5 times, depending on who was it. But we evaluated at the end of it, what was the commonality? What did I learn from this? How can I stop this pain in the future? Because if you don't look at it like that, you're going to continue to repeat it and repeat it and repeat it.
You've got to throw some logic into the emotion in order to make a good decision. And another thing that dawned on me when we were just saying this, and you mentioned starving artists, and I don't want to put us onto another topic, but I think people think that they can paint that painting and sell it.
Yeah,
and paint the next one and sell it. maybe some marketing and stuff, but every successful artist I've talked to in the last year to 2 years, they've diversified their income.
Mm-hmm.
And that made me think when you were just talking a minute ago, and I don't know why, but it's like, we don't go to Target for one item.
Right?
No.
We go to Target because they have food and they have clothing and they have this and they have that. They've diversified their marketplace, just like Walmart has. And you're seeing, you don't go in a gas station anymore and grab a candy bar and a gas. You can get a hot dog, a coffee, a donut, and all this other food because they've diversified. And I think artists think all I have to do is paint and sell. I don't need to do anything else. No, you need to. And that's where I think a lot of the emotion negativity comes into play.
Oh, yeah.
Is, well,
Their expectation was not met.
Right. They're not setting realistic expectations by doing the logical side. And that's what you were bringing up, that Stephanie, that made me think of all this. And now I forgot where I was going with that. But, if you don't look at things with some sense of logic by acknowledging that, hey, I'm having a really bad day today, I'm just going to let it be a bad day.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to move this task till a better day, and I'm going to go take a nap, or I'm going to go walk the dog, or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm. You bring up a really good point about the diversification too, because, it's like the starving artist type thing. Yeah, you're absolutely right. You cannot just produce a painting and sell it over and over, because here's the thing about a painting. A painting is a one-time production piece, and that one-time production piece is going to have a higher cost, higher value. Not everybody is going to be in that target market.
Correct.
So you got to create another product line, from that image. That's your print on demand, those lower cost items, and then market those. And not everybody's going to want to print. So you can take that product, turn it into a sticker. You can take that product, turn it into a notebook. You have the ability to offer a lot of things to a lot of people. And I can hear somebody right now saying, yes, but that's a lot of work. And
yes,
it's a lot of work.
Yeah, running a business is a lot of work.
It is a lot of work.
It doesn't matter how simple you go. There's so many aspects to that business.
Yeah.
So you have to start small.
Right. You pick one thing and you kick that ball down the field until you get into the goal, and then you find another ball and kick it down the goal.
Right. I think that's a big thing with negativity is we expect I'm going to do 5 things and 5 different streams of income all at once versus that's
stressful.
Right. And that brings on so much negativity. And I know we're supposed to be talking about what we do to prevent negativity, but I think in a way that is one thing that we do is we hyper focus into one goal. I go back to my goal setting stuff is pick your 4 goals, pick their time frames, if it's quarterly, half a year, whatever it is, and focus on that one thing for that period of time.
I listened to, I don't remember who it was, but it was some general. And the general, he had like a checklist. If he doesn't do anything else today, he's made his bed. And that's it.
Yeah.
That way he knows he accomplished something. And it can be as little as that.
Yes, it can be. And I have friends they make their bed every day for that very reason, because then they feel like they've accomplished something.
Yeah. Because I'm doing what we're doing, and I don't want to take this away from anybody. What we're doing as an art business, it is the hardest, I think, business that you could possibly go into.
Yeah.
I'm working.
Because there's a ton of variables.
Yes, there's a ton of variables. You are the chief and the bottle washer, cook and everything. And when you start breaking down those things, it is really, really hard. This is harder than any corporate job I had ever had.
Yes, I agree.
Mm-hmm. So, it's okay. I think it's okay to get a little down, but accept that and then move forward into that next step. And remember, like Julie was saying, remember your goals. What is it that you want to move towards next? What's that one little thing, that 1% change that you can make that takes you towards that? And that's really, if you make 1% change today and then another % change tomorrow, over time, it's going to add up.
Yes.
That's all that it takes.
Well, and understanding too, it's okay if you change your path.
Yes.
Like I changed. Yeah. I had a goal that I expected to do in 3 months is now going to grow to a 12-month goal because I'm not finishing it in the time frame that I want. It's okay to change your path. And I think that's another place where artists, just individuals in general, get very bogged down is, well, no, it was supposed to be done this way. And it was supposed to take this much time. Goals are there as a guideline. They're not there in cement.
And I was going to say, it's okay to expand, but it's also okay if you get sidetracked.
Oh, yes, completely.
With life, kids, health, whatever.
I mean, if you think about why we chose this path,
right?
You know, you wanted the freedom, to be with your family, and
right. And if life happens and you have to deal with the health situation, or you got to deal with your children or children's health or anything like that, parents or whatever,
aging parents,
correct. You have that ability, and it's not necessarily that you're giving up on a goal.
Right.
That meme or that image of success doing that straight line going up, and they're like, no, normally it's this line, squiggly, and then some more squiggly, and then you're over here. You're not even like...
Right. Then you're in a big valley, and then you got to reclimb a hill again, and now you're at the top and maybe moving forward. I mean,
exactly.
It's not a straight line, like you said.
Well, and there's also maybe a point that you're going to decide that the version of success that you had in mind is not the one that's actually right for you.
Right.
It's okay. You don't have to be ginormous if you don't want to. You don't have to go get a virtual assistant if you don't want to. You don't have to do all these things. You get to choose what you want to do.
Right.
And that's empowering, and it's also scary.
Yeah, it is. It's very true.
I have a good friend that she does all this fantastic artwork, and she's like, I am never going to sell it. And I'm like,
that's okay. That's what she wants.
You know, and I'm like, and she's like, well, they're mine.
Right.
It's me. You know, like we were talking about this. It was a part of her during this season of her life, and they mean something to her.
And at some point she'll be ready to let them go. But right now that's a piece of her.
Yep.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that either.
No, and I love that. I mean, it's like her goal wasn't financial success. Her goal was to create the pieces.
Yeah.
Man, this is a great conversation.
Yes, it is.
But I was going to ask you guys if you have any, I mean, this is all mental and just, I don't know, attitude. So are there some things you actually do during the day or your week or your month that help you stay centered and focused and positive?
Yes.
And...
You're wanting to tell us what those are?
Well, for me, I have my other hobby. So I read. I have a husband, kids. We travel, and I, prayer, life, meditation. I always have like essential oils, just to help create a different atmosphere in here.
That's a good one.
Or something like that. So I don't know. Do you guys have something kind of concrete that might help? I mean, I don't know. Other people do that too. Nothing specific. Yoga. I mean,
so I can tell you, I can do all of those things. And I know when I'm really, really, really super overwhelmed and I just can't figure out what to do next, I literally lay on the floor. And it's something about just being still and trying to remember that this I'm just a drop in the bucket. And so stop putting so much pressure on myself.
Yeah. You're grounding yourself.
Yeah.
Do you know that they call that now, they have it forced grounding?
No.
It's called foresting or something. Force sitting. I don't know. You go out, you go to your favorite, like mindsetDo, which is here locally, or you go and you basically lay in the grass or the field.
See, I've done that in my backyard too. I didn't know that was a thing.
Because scientists have found that the negative ions that are released in the wind and the leaves and the grass and the things that flowers and things like that. It's just like going to the beach. The negative ions from the waves and the beach, they put you in a better mood.
Yeah,
and they're finding out this
really
same
does.
thing with the woods and the forestry.
Yeah.
I do that every now and then, like when I get super overwhelmed and I don't want to, and it's nice out, I'll go out into the backyard and I'll just sit Indian style and just, crisscross applesauce. I think is what the kids call it now. And, but I'll sit there and I'll put my hands on the ground. And if the ground doesn't have any dog poop or like ants around me, I'll sometimes lay back and look at the clouds. And that really does make you realize what I'm experiencing right now is really insignificant.
Yeah.
I used to do that as a kid. We had like a little hill in our area, and we would like roll down the hill, and we would just sit there and like be at this vertical and sit there and look at the clouds and everything. And
we'd find different shapes in the clouds.
Yeah.
And they say going barefoot is good. Like,
well, I go barefoot everywhere. I hate wearing shoes.
And it's that, it's just a connection.
Yeah. Yeah.
To, something different.
It re-energizes you and refreshes you.
Mm-hmm.
I'll take a bath and I will actually, physically think about washing. Like sometimes I'll actually kind of aggressively, take my hand and rub it on my arms. Like this is not mine. This negative stuff, it's not mine. It's given back. And then imagine it washing down the drain. And those mental things really help. But
who was it that, and it may not have been you guys, it may have been someone else I was talking to, that they actually write down things that have been weighing on them and will burn them.
Yeah, we did that at the retreat, and it was such an interesting feeling watching it burn. Yeah. It was gone.
Ashes to ashes, dust to dust.
Yeah, and I'm trying to even think what all I wrote down, but we had to write down something that had happened to us and a big mistake in our business. I know what I wrote down, and I hadn't really even thought about it since then.
Good.
I do that. There's at least once a month, I'll write down all the negative stuff and burn it. And if it's really, really bad, if somebody like really, really hurts me in some way, or if I've got like just a negative thought and nobody did anything to me, but it's just a negative, I'll write it down and take it out to the little chimney, and it's releasing. You can physically watch the release of the smoke and let it go.
And the little papers going up in the air. And it was a really cool thing to have happen.
It's a release.
Oh yeah, big time.
I'll tell you, the other day though, I like to use Insight Timer.
Oh yeah, I love
I love Insight Timer.
And last week it just got real heavy with stuff that's going on for me. And I was just sitting here and I was like, I couldn't concentrate. I couldn't do anything. And I could feel myself just getting heavy. So I went and just listened to some
affirmations.
Well, I just meditated on positivity.
Yeah.
So just like, good stuff. And I know that sounds really cheesy. And for someone who might be really hurting out there, that might not work for them, but it's something. And you can get it for free, or you can subscribe.
Well, even if it's just 2 minutes, it's amazing what a minute or 2 minutes can do. Listening to some of those short Insight Timers too. It just reconditions you to not think so heavy and hard about what's happening to you negatively.
I like the idea of doing the affirmations either in the morning or in the evening. Things that were good that happened during the day. Or because my gosh, can we just not write negativity? Like if I wanted to write everything wrong with me, I would fill this up and get another book.
Right.
Why do we do that? Especially as women. But like trying to come up with 3 things that were positive.
Yeah.
Write them down. And I'm like, I have to sit here and think.
Oh, no.
Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because then you worry about, am I being vain? I shouldn't be thankful for this. You start to have like those little things.
Positive about me.
Oh.
Right.
I mean, like, if you're really, you know what I'm saying? Like,
you're loyal, you're a great friend, you got beautiful eyes, and you got a great smile. Always want to talk to her. She's so happy. I can give you a bunch.
Oh, I'm trying to remember what these were called.
I will. Okay. But you know what I'm saying? Like, when you are in a,
you're trying
to stay, or you're trying to stay positive, or you're like, I gotta get positive. It's hard to, and then Julie's pulling out her book.
Yes, I got to find it. But
you do affirmations every day, don't you?
I used to. I don't do it every day anymore. But we did these things at this retreat that were fabulous. What are they called?
I know
Does she not
when
like
I know.
typed
I love those.
lettering? We're looking at your book. Her handwriting is fantastic. Just a side
Sugar
note.
cubes, notes of appreciation.
I love that sugar
We had to
cubes.
do one for everyone at the retreat and one to ourselves. And then we keep them. So at the last day, as everyone's leaving, you get an envelope filled with all these notes of appreciation, these sugar cubes. And so when you're having a bad day, you go and you read through these. And I was just in awe at some of the way people saw me over how I see myself.
Yeah.
And it was so nice. And it was fun to write them for other people. And
well, I know, like, when I go about my day, if I have something in my brain that I see in someone, or I'm like the other day, I was getting, mammogram that time of year, and the nurse was wearing a good color on. I was like, that's a really good color. And she was like, oh, thanks. That was my grandmother's favorite color. Blah, blah. And we ended up having like a great conversation. And I don't know. I always want to say something. I always want to try to say something positive to someone else.
That's a great thing too, because that helps bring positivity in your own life.
Right. Because, I don't know, like that old saying, you don't know what someone else is going through.
Right, exactly.
And
what goes around comes around, and
Karma is a bitch, and her name is Stephanie.
But these are just some ideas that we have, and I'm wondering, I bet our listeners have some great ideas too.
Well, and one that I forgot that really helps me a lot is Feet Up. I bought a
Feet Up,
my handstand.
Oh, holy Toledo.
Oh my God. It is like, if I'm really stressing out or overwhelmed, I just go upside down for a few minutes as long as I can stay on it. And it is like, it's like grounding yourself. It's the same thing. I don't know how it works, but it is awesome.
Now I'm going to be, I'm going to be thinking of you, like when you're stressing out over someone, I'm going to be like, I'm going to be picturing you with a handstand.
She's literally heads over heels.
Yes, it is. It is.
Oh, well, we've got one of those inversion tables, and I've never really thought about doing it for grounding purposes.
Yeah.
Huh.
And I don't know. I mean,
I wonder if you put it outside on a nice day.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't like being upside down. My blood rushes to my head.
Yeah. I mean, I can't stay for that long on that thing, but it's gotten longer as I've used it.
When I was little, the monkey bars and hanging upside down.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
That was the best.
Yes, that was awesome.
Freedom.
Yeah.
Swing back and forth while you're upside down. Yeah. I can't do that now.
We can't do that now. We'd pass out.
No. I've had kids. I can't do that anymore.
Well, I know you guys are listening out there, so give us what you do to stay positive, because these are just a few of our ideas, and you may have something that is fabulous that we need to hear. So leave it in the comments section and join us next time. Thanks for listening to Artists Soar,
a podcast for artists by artists. And if you have any questions, feel free to email us at hello@artistsoar.com.
And be sure to leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts so you can get more of us and we can bring in some sponsors to help you and help us.